Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Before we do, we're gonna have Councilman Chappelle lead us in prayer. I ask everyone please to stand for the pledge. Okay, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Judge, pleasure to have you here. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Our first item on the agenda is to consider approval of minutes of November 1st, 2022 regular session and November 8th, 2022 special session.
After reviewing the minutes, I'll make a motion, we approve the November 1st regular session and the November 8th, regular session and the November 8th special session as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a Councilman Mendel with a first motion, followed by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, please record a vote.
Aye.
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 All right, we have a unanimous vote on that item. We'll move on to item 2. Item 2 is to consider approval of resolution 2022-20, awarding a bid for sale of property on TBD County Road 1312 to Henry Salas in the amount of $30,000.
So we had a bid that we put in the newspaper. Henry was the only person who turned in a bid for the property. And so we have a resolution to sell the property to him so he can come and we can get in the works to get him his deed and go exchange the property to his name.
Do you recall what the taxes was on that property that was owed?
There were no taxes owed. We own it, and but we, I think the appraisal came in around 24,000, and then there was 1,500 for an appraisal and another 500 or something for the survey. So we added that to the price, the minimum price, and he overbid that by a couple $1,000.
Okay, council, do we have any further questions on this item? If not, the floor is open for a motion.
I'll move resolution 2022-20.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Once again, we have a unanimous vote. We'll now close that item on the agenda. Our next item, item 3, is to consider approval of pay request from Watson Construction for work on the community center. Ms. Jordan, it's a pleasure to have you.
Good evening, council. Thank y'all. So I have the pay application from Watson Construction for this past month's work. It is certified in the amount of $67,556.70. But the good news is that this past week we got a roof. So that's really exciting news for the community center. On this pay app, they are not requesting most of the general conditions because, again, the project has extended the timeline, and so for this past month there wasn't a lot of work actually done on site, and so they did not charge for any of the general conditions there. As far as what you're seeing being charged for this month, some of the items are just items that were ordered. And so there's $26,452 for the door hardware allowance. And so we had an allowance of $27,000. And so once that actually comes in, this was just to place the order. that additional remaining funds will be credited back to you and go into your contingency by change order, just to let y'all know that. Then you also are being charged a few little items in the general conditions. Additionally, you have on here some of the interior doors being stored. Those are being stored off-site. They presented photos of that and their insurance certificates. The operable partition, there was some additional work done on that, as well as the storefront doors on the exterior, the field fabrication, the measurements had started, and the materials had been ordered as well. On the second page, you have work for the wall tile that is being stored in there. That is being stored off-site though. And the fire protection systems, that's also material, but that material is on-site for the fire suppression system to start being installed, but it won't be installed until the roof was installed, which should now start all be happening. And then electrical, that's electrical work for the site pole lights. The underground conduit was run to those. So it's a relatively small pay app in comparison because there wasn't a lot of work done on site because we were waiting on the roof, but the roof was installed last week, and I think there's still some more flashing pieces, but for the most part, the roof was installed last week.
I think you'd said the flashing pieces were an issue. Maybe they were looking for somebody to redo those. Somebody had dropped maybe one of the companies had belly upped or something, and we were waiting on somebody else to make them somehow. So we got that resolved because that was what was holding the roof up, correct?
Yes, they ended up ordering the wall panels and some of the flashing pieces from McElroy, and they did not include the flashing pieces in their delivery, and they were not being as responsive as we were wanting to give us a timeline to receive those pieces, and so they actually ended up going and getting those fabricated elsewhere.
I see a lot of the items and materials with photos showing that they're being stored off-site. How are we looking overall for remaining materials to finish the project? Do we have any other outstanding items that are back-ordered or have longer lead time?
There's not that's been anything brought to our attention that they're concerned with as far as lead times. I know that the kitchen equipment is another item that we presented to Mr. Ricky, and he's reviewed that, and so that's been sent off to start getting approved by the MEP engineer to make sure all of our hookups are appropriate for the equipment selected. But that one is in the works of getting on order as well. So
We're still looking at a January 7th or 10th or
February, yes.
I was by there this afternoon, and it looked like there were several contractors working inside and out.
Now that the roof is installed, you'll start seeing a lot more movement happening there because a lot of the trades really cannot work without the roof there. So I know that there are some still happening on the outside, but yes, they're starting to move to the inside as well. And because of the delay, they went ahead and started work on the parking lot area and the drives, but because of how much rain we've been receiving, that's kind of come to a halt.
Yeah, it was a loblolly out there, it looked like.
Okay, council, we have any further questions? Floor is open for motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the pay request from construction for the work on the community center for the financial impact of $67,556.70 as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilman Dale and second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, we have a unanimous decision once again. We'll go ahead and close that item on the agenda. Next item 4.
Sorry, Mayor. Gordon from Hughes Springs, could you give us kind of an update on how your community is and how did you fare in it, you and Derek?
It still looks pretty bad, even though it looks way better than it was when it initially happened. Personally, Derek and myself had 2 rental homes that were hit by the tornado. And so one of them had a tree go through it, so the tenants can no longer live there until we get it fixed. And then the other one, part of the roof was taken off, but it was a laundry room addition that we had done because it was an older home. And so that one, the tenants can stay, even though there's some damage to the property. The city has found out from a structural engineer that the main frame of the volunteer fire department is structurally sound, so we don't have to completely demolish the volunteer fire department. But the main frame can remain in the structure, but all of the guts in the exterior are going to have to come off and be redone. And so they've already started that claim process and started receiving funds for that. The city hall sustained damage to the roof, but it is an old hospital building that was renovated to be the city hall, and there's asbestos inside, and so they're still kind of debating how they're going to be able to abate that versus tear it down, or what the next steps are going to be because of the asbestos present. Our cemetery and park that's next to the cemetery that's adjacent to the city hall, it's still pretty bad as far as the trees down, and it completely changed the landscape of that area. But for the most part, I don't know of anybody being displaced still. People have been able to find other places to live until their homes are repaired. So that's the benefit. And I think that we still have a couple of disaster relief teams in the area helping through various means, but I think for the most part, after last week, they've all returned back to their homes. So
I was very fortunate with no life lost and no serious injuries, really, was there?
no, there was rumors of one elderly woman potentially being killed, but that seemed to have been a rumor, and I haven't heard anything else about that. So we're friends with one of the families who had the roof completely removed, and they were fortunate enough that them and their parents who lived next door, whose house was also destroyed, that they were all safe. And so it was kind of a very fortunate event that everyone, like our renters, they were in their bathtub and so it was just a lot of people just finding places in the nick of time. So we were very fortunate. I know that other communities like Paris and such had fatalities. So thank y'all.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, we'll now open item 4 on the agenda, which is discussion and consider approval of a request from Arturo and Maria Gallardo for the approval of a replat of 0.305 acre tract of land, being all that's separate eastern tract of land, same being part of the called second tract, conveyed to Arturo and Gallardo and Maria L. Gallardo by deed recorded in instrument number 20143-467, real property records, Titus County, Texas. This tract to be subdivided into one lot known as Lot 1, Gallardo Addition, in addition to the city of Mount Pleasant, Texas, and is situated in the Daniel McCall Survey, abstract number 357, Titus County, Texas. Is generally situated on the southwest quadrant of the intersection of North Quill Avenue and East 4th Street, city of Mount Pleasant, Texas. David?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, and members of the council, and Mr. Thatcher. On this particular case, we have a property here that was owned, and when it was purchased, came in as 2 separate lots, and so by deed, he is wanting to separate this lot out and be able to develop this one. So essentially, what this replat is allowing him to do is be able to have a single-family home on that lot and attach the other and keep that as a separate lot. With that, we took this to Planning and Zoning Commission on November 8th last week, and they're forwarding a recommendation of approval for this, and staff recommend approval of the replat as well. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Floor is open. Okay, if we have no questions, we'll go ahead and, open the floor for a motion.
I'll move approval of the replat as presented tonight.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Vote carries unanimous vote. We'll now close that item on the agenda and move on to item 5, which is discussion and consider approval of a proposal from Dunaway Associates LP for the update of the City of Mount Pleasant zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations.
Mayor and Council, Dunaway is a consulting firm that does many different things, many different tasks, but one of those is planning. And myself and Mr. Thatcher have had conversations with this company and discussed what we wanted to do based on our implementation program out of the comprehensive plan. One of the next steps was to look at the zoning code to try to update that to a more friendly document, essentially. And we sort of told them that that's what we were looking for, not a full-scale overhaul of anything necessarily. And they also took a look at the subdivision ordinance. Subdivision ordinance basically is trying to get it more in line with state requirements and trying to basically update it to what the current standards are. And we've gotten the engineering standards approved, the technical part of it, but we need to go back through and take a look at that subdivision ordinance to make sure that there's some things we have that meet state requirements and things we need to put in it and just relook at. It hadn't been looked at in many years. The proposal really just, if you've read it there, it just basically spells out that they will go through there and try to reorganize the zoning code. And I'll tell you about the zoning code and the way it's, we get calls from real estate folks or folks in development, and the way the uses are aligned in the code, and the way it's cumulative and whatnot, it makes it real difficult for somebody to determine what they can do in a specific district. And that's been asked me several times since I've been here, that it's a little bit difficult. It's difficult to read. It's difficult to get your hands wrapped around. And there's different places where it shows up. Our list of uses is a little disorganized a little bit, the way you go and see the uses in each district, but then you still go to a use appendix thing and you look at that. So there's uses that fall out in there that don't necessarily fall out in the lineup. So it's basically an ordinance that needs to be sort of overhauled, updated, bring it into a more easy tool for staff to use and also for the citizens to use. So we felt like we've talked to these folks. I've known them from this company for, or at least the people that work for the company. There are newer people that have gone into the company, but I've known these people that are pretty much veteran folks that have been around in the planning world that I've known for well over 20 years. And some of the other people we've actually have worked with that have joined this company also. We felt like that are good experts in their areas, and it goes beyond just planners. They do park design, they do engineering, and this and the other. But we felt like this is an opportunity to bring it forward to you. Interested to move forward with this. But we think that or at least we've looked at the cost. The cost we think is very reasonable for what we would get. Any other company trying to do a full-scale thing, I would tell you that it would be substantially more money than this. But I think they're trying to give us a product from what we've specified to them. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we are trying to make it more modern and trying to organize it and get a better tool for us to use. So we thought we'd bring it to you tonight and get some questions, get some feedback, and see if we're ready to go forward with this.
To my knowledge, the city of Mount Pleasant has never used a professional consulting service like this before, have we?
What we did on the comprehensive plan, I'm not aware of that. Well, I'll say that. I think 20 years ago, it was a company called Cefco, an associates company I know pretty well. They did your comprehensive plan 20 plus years ago.
But that's interesting that out of the comprehensive plan, we come out of it with some list of things that we need to do. One thing is to look at the zoning ordinance and make sure it's in line with the comprehensive plan, and meets the needs that we have at the time, like Robert said. And there's couple other things, standards, building standards and so forth that they want you to update, and we've done that, and so this comes out of doing the comprehensive plan. Now we need to make sure the zoning hits that. What happened in early 2000 is you did a comprehensive plan. In fact, those maps right there are a result of that plan. But these are the new ones. Okay, so the old ones were there for the last 20-some years, and in fact, when Robert came a couple of years ago, he looked at those, and he said after the meeting, he said, Ed, the comp plan is way out of sync with your zoning, but what we told them, not me, but some of our staff said, when we got that comp plan done, we just kind of put it on the shelf, and we don't pay any attention to it, but yet we still change zoning. And one of the things, if you change zoning, it has to be in compliance with the comp plan. And if it's not, then you got to amend if you really want to make the change, you got to amend the comp plan and then the zoning. And we've not done that for the last 20 years, so the zoning and the comp did not match at all. And of course, it doesn't match this new one, so this is part of that we said we need to do this first year. And so this is a good company to do that, and that'll get us in line. I think you'll see that a lot of the zoning that was done was not done by ordinance in the last 20 years. It was just done administratively. So we don't have ordinances that back that up, which is really strange. But since Robert's been here in the last 3 years, we've brought more planning and stuff to you. Every zoning change has to go to the P&Z and to the council for approval. And it's just nice to be able to have a comp plan and a zoning study that matches each other, and then our job is to keep them in sync, not to let them get out of sync. So.
Hey, Robert's going to ask you just a couple of quick questions. Under the fee summary, where they have the hourly services, is that in addition to the flat rate that they gave there for the whole deal? Is that if they go beyond the scope of work? And also, do they give us a timeline when they think that they would have this done?
I do think that's an extra amount, the hourly, that's what they're basing on, with their hourly wage besides. As far as timing, I don't think it's gonna be, it's a process. They have to meet with staff, and at some point we'll be working with the P&Z and hold some probably public hearings or town hearings on this thing. Definitely if we're adopting a new code, we'll have public hearings on that itself. But this is more of an update than it is a whole-scale rewrite of the code. We didn't intend to do that necessarily. The one thing that I will tell you, though, that I think is going to help is that I think some technology has changed. These companies that we use, the coding companies, with American Eagle and those folks, I'd say American Eagle, it's American Publishing, whatever it is, the one we use, that codify our codes, and it's a code of ordinances. For the longest time, you use those, but you couldn't really get graphics in it. If they couldn't put that out there in their software, or they hadn't been able to do it. Well, I found out from this company today, that was a big deal with me. I didn't really want to put it back in. I wanted to take it out of the code of ordinances because the zoning code needs to be a little bit more graphic and easier to read. And if you can change it, you can change it with the things you want to change in it. Well, they told me the technology's changed enough to where these companies now have come up to the ability to put the graphics in there. So, and what they do is they systematically, when you go and look at something, it'll look the same, but it'll have a link to tell you to go look at that, and it'll take you off of there and show you the graphic part of what you're trying to look at. So that's all new, and it's starting to happen now, and they codify it that way, which I've not seen it before, but now those companies can do that. So that was a big thing. I think we can get a code that's really good with a lot of graphics in it, and it'll just link up to where you need to go to get and see it. That should make it a lot easier. I just want to let you know that.
And speaking of that link, does that link stay updated on the back end? So if something was to change and you click on that link, you'll be seeing the latest version of whatever that may be?
I think they have the ability to do that. We should have that. If we make a change, well, the company itself, if we make the change, we pay those people to, essentially, they codify, they catch up. If we do some kind of changes, then they make the change for us.
What is the estimated cost of this?
Well, they've got a combined cost of both the zoning and the subdivision orders at $60,000. But then, like Henry said, they've got this estimated hourly rate that they would charge. It's at 5,000. And they do have their, their extraneous things, travel. Those are other additional costs that they may put in there on top of it. If they do any additional mapping or any of those kinds of things, those come in there. But this is the initial cost is 60,000.
So at the end of the day, is this going to make our zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations easier for the citizens to understand and easier to work with us? Because that's the main deal, is if we make it more user-friendly to the people that are invested in this town, that's the bonus.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's most of it, really. Make it easy for them to go online and take a look at it and find exactly what they need at that particular moment. Like I've said, I've had the real estate folks, chairman of the P&Z. He had trouble understanding, exactly how those what can you build in this district, because it's cumulative, and you go in there, you read in one district, you're having to go back and find out what you can do there, and it's become a little tedious for people to kind of figure out what to do in it. And I think that will, the linking part of it, and seeing these things in more graphic detail will make you understand what to do a little easier. And that's really the main intent for doing this.
And you can't hardly count the times that people have said, when we're talking to them, they say, you don't have it on your website. I mean, you don't have it on the computer, because that's what they're used to doing. That's what they've been used to doing for the last 15, 20 years, so we'll be up to snuff now.
And by the way, I noticed there is a cancellation provision in here that, for any reason, we want to get out of it any time we could. So it's not like a marriage or death do you part or nothing.
And to Councilman Adams' point, I see here, Robert, where it says there'll be easy to understand graphics. So that'll, the old adage, picture's worth 1,000 words. That'll really help with a lot of concerns that citizens have when they're looking up certain things.
I have worked with these people that are in the thing in different. One of the planners worked with him in a couple of different jobs. Actually, one in Heath and one in Rockwall, and he's just joined their staff, and he's very good. And I think the graphic part there, the gentleman that I know, that's his name's Stephen Cook. I've known him for about 25 years, and his expertise not only with just the technical part of planning, but he's very good with GIS, the graphics there. He's good with the real technical software part of it. Besides just being the writer part of it, he's very good at organizing, and that's part of the issue with these codes, is to make sure that you're good at really at the publishing part of it, that you have how it's put together detail-wise, and we'll go through that with them and make sure we're comfortable. Last thing I'll say about this is that there are some things in the code that we might want to consider as we're going through the process about land use, things that kind of overlap in the districts that it may have caused some issue, like we talked about, sometimes creating these nonconformities or things that we want to have a consideration to look at. This would be the time to do that. If we decide that we want to look at some areas like these corridors, if we want to change the way some of those uses are, we might end up making some nonconformity, but it'd be the road to kind of clean it up, a chance to clean up some of that mismatched land use that's out there. And this would be an opportunity to do that.
This company, like Robert said, most have been around 25, 30 years, 2 or 3 of them. I've worked with some of them too, when they work for bigger firms or whatever. They're I would say small or medium firm, but they do know their stuff, and it's allowing us to get it for a lot cheaper than what we'd use if we used one of the bigger firms.
Okay, do we have any further discussion on this item? Now, we'll go ahead on the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion we consider the approval of this proposal from Dunaway and Associates LP for the update of the city of Mount Pleasant zoning and ordinance and subdivision regulation as presented by Robert this evening.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Dale, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion is unanimous. Okay, we're gonna now move on to item 6. Item 6 is consider approval of the interlocal agreement for fire services with Titus County.
Oh my gosh. I really appreciate the honorable judge and his wife being here tonight, and I think he has something to say here. But we went through this agreement last time, and we did add one more paragraph, but I think we talked about it. It was, what about the equipment that we buy 50/50, and if we separate, how do we? So we just put a paragraph in there that said that that equipment would be appraised, and both sides would get together and choose who wanted what, and so, and then they just pay the other one out, so you'd make it right with each other. And so, but I think we have everything in there we like. I know that the judge called me and said that the county commissioners voted unanimously to approve it, and so it's on the agenda tonight for your consideration and approval. If this is approved, then we'll be in a 10-year, as of last October 1, 10-year contract. So, and you all know the provision. So just open up for questions, and possibly the judge wants to speak.
Okay, Judge, did you wanna come up? Answer any questions? No problem. All right, council, floor is open on this.
I'll just say that I've been a part of this in meetings and all over the last few months, probably since back in June. And I think this is a good agreement for the county and the city. And I'm glad that we've come to a resolution. I'm glad it was unanimous with the county. So I'm looking forward to working with them and getting all this done and going forward with this.
I'll say, as someone that was in the discussions early on this as well, I said early on that we're all Titus County residents. We just have the luxury of sitting on the city side of the negotiations. But as we look at what Titus County and Mount Pleasant means to all of us, we're all one big family, and I think a 10-year deal was something that we were hoping we could get to from the very beginning, and sometimes it got a little rocky and we thought we weren't going to get there, but I'm glad to be able to come tonight and for my part be able to agree to this, and I'm for it.
I would like to say too that it was said in a meeting that toward the end that we really should have just done this last meeting and not gone through all the back and forth over the months, and it reminded me of what my wife and I say about our grandkids. We wished if we'd have known how good they were, we'd have cut the kids out and gone right to the grandkids. And saying that is, I really believe that we needed to have the discussions we had all the way through, and with the council's guidance and with the judge's guidance and expertise, we made our way through all that, and it was rocky, and I think all of that had to happen in order for us to come to what we did and have such a calm and a nice ending to it and agreement. So I just want to say that I think it was all important, everything we did, everything we said, to kind of get things on the table and then sort through things and get to where we are. So I just appreciate this council and appreciate the judge and his leadership. Appreciate him a lot.
And I just want to say as well that I'm glad to see that the city and the county can come together as partners on this. I think it sets a good precedence for the community, and I'm looking forward to this long-term relationship.
Okay, we'll go ahead and We have no further questions on it. We'll go ahead and call for a motion.
I'd like to move for the approval of the 10-year interlocal agreement for fire services with Titus County.
I'll second that motion.
Alrighty, we have a motion made by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Now I'm gonna close that, and Judge, did you want to come up and speak at this time? All right.
All right, I'll start over. Mayor, council, and Ed, it was important to me to be here tonight. It's my 42nd anniversary, but this is a high priority item for me tonight, and we'll get to a nice dinner later on. But I'm sure glad the vote went as it did, because I'd have egg on my face if it did not. But I have brought 2 executed copies of the exact document that you sent to me with section number 15 in there that did talk about, in the event of dissolution, what we would do about some of those shared items. So first of all, thank you very much for working through this process. Yeah, it was a little rocky there, but I sure had hopes that we would get to this point. And as you know, we've come a long way from where we started to where we are. And I know in my heart that the county is getting a heck of a lot of value for the price that we are paying. And I hope that the city feels like they're getting a reasonable amount of compensation from us. And I still say it's the very best way to do this is to work together. The size of our county, I think that we both probably spend less money doing it this way than I know that we do. And again, I just want to thank you for your tolerance in working through this process. I hope that we weren't too difficult to work with, but this is just a continuation of a long relationship with the city as far as it relates to fire protection. And so I'm glad that it's going to continue on. It was very important to me that we get this worked out before I retired from office. So thank you for making that happen. Would like to say one final word of thanks to Chief McRae. And he and I have spent a lot of time talking about this subject over the years. And he really taught me and has taught me a lot about the administration of fire protection and what it takes, and helping us to see, as the county has changed in the way that we're able to provide fire protection to our citizens, the city has taken on a bigger and bigger role, and consequently we need to compensate the city in a bigger and bigger way. So from all of the guys at the Commissioner's Court and myself, once again, thank you very much. I have 2 copies, and maybe you could keep one original and get me back an original at your convenience. All right?
Unless you want to hold up your dinner, we can get it signed here.
I'll get it tomorrow. Should I leave it with Candace? All right, I'll do it. Good evening, and thank you again.
Happy anniversary to both of you.
Enjoy your dinner.
Once again, thank you, Judge, for coming in and taking the time out of your day, and happy anniversary to you and the madam there. So y'all have a good anniversary, and we're going to go ahead and move on to our next item. What's that? Go right ahead. Y'all have a good one now. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close out item 6 and move on to item 7, which is our public comment. At this time, if anyone would like to approach and address the council, please do so at this time. Be limited to 2 minutes. Okay, council, do we have any comments? Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and close item 7, and we'll move on to our city manager's report on item 8.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just want to remind you that Thursday night, day after tomorrow, we need you downtown at the north end of the courthouse, up the stage. There'll be a stage there at 5:45 for the lighting ceremony. A lot's gonna happen down there between now, tomorrow, starting tomorrow through that time, and so we're gonna light the courthouse. If you remember, we'll have carriage rides there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the way from now to Christmas, and then of course the music playing, and then our event tomorrow night. So we got a lot of people. I think there's like 250,000. That's what Suzanne said. There's all kinds of comments hitting, and how grateful, how excited people are about it. So there's a lot of hits to the Facebook.
Go ahead.
It's 5:45.
Go ahead, Chair.
Ed, I was looking here a little bit in this section of some of the you've included for us. I'd like to ask a little bit about the Building and Planning Development Monthly Report that John did. And it says on the commercial value, a year ago was 783,000. Am I seeing this right? $9 million now?
No, what his boss is. Maybe he can. I'll look at.
With that said, Sherry, I don't know, I just saw it yesterday, but has anybody drove by and looked at what Diamond C's doing to the building out at the new industrial park out by the interstate? My gosh, unbelievable. Yes, and of course Preference, like you said, doing a bunch of work. I've talked to some people doing some work out there. My goodness, awesome.
Yeah, it shows right here that I think their permit fee was nearly $35,000, and it was on October 13th when this was all applied for.
Well, we're grateful that they're having the opportunity to expand and hope them, of course, much success.
Okay, do we have anything else for public comment? Alrighty, we'll go ahead and close that item, not public comment, I'm sorry. City manager's report was actually what that was, question was brought up in. But, we'll go ahead and, close that if we have no further questions for Mr. Thatcher. So, our next item is, executive session pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, and the City Council will recess into executive session to discuss the following: personnel matters, discuss the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public office or employee. Board appoint and city manager. At this time, the council is going to executive session.
Let me just say, correct my numbers. 26,000 comments on this, which is still a whole bunch.
All right. The time is now 8 p.m. And we are gonna be reconvening into our regular session. As of item 8, our executive session, and we'll be moving on to item 10, to consider appointment to Planning and Zoning Commission. You go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we appoint, Mr. Jacob Blue to the Planning and Zoning, Commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilman Dale, second made by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 This motion went unanimously. We'll now close item 10 on the agenda. This time, floor is open for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
We are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.